We are live, and hopefully the microphone works. It looks like it isn't, so if you guys are not hearing anything that I say, please tell me quickly and we will figure something out. So I apologize to Colin if that does end up being the case. Right, I don't have anyone on, so I'm not going to start it right now. I'm going to wait until we do have some people on. Something I usually say beforehand that I will wait a little bit. I just quickly, we do have people on, but I will go ahead and say this. A couple of things. One, probably noticed that we have a different background here. That's because I had to move to a different location this week because of the parades. The parade started at like 2 o'clock instead of noon. So it was kind of difficult because I usually have the location in downtown. Difficult to do that. So first of all, Jonathan, do you hear us? I assume with 5 people on, you guys do hear us. So I think we are going to go ahead and get started. So hello, ladies and gentlemen of Vanderbilt and the entire YouTube world, and welcome to Terrier Talk, Season 2, Episode 26. And I have with me one of the seniors of the boys soccer team, Colin Ernie.
How's it going, Double A? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. So obviously a lot to talk about. Thank you, Jonathan, for interacting, not only that, but also telling us that it is good, affirming. Thank you. Will asks, is it difficult to do it in a new location? Sorry, I try to. Anyway, it was a little bit complicated, but it isn't too bad. We were a little bit rushed to get everything set up, but we are here now.
Just adversity.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
You guys, hopefully you guys can deal with any adversity you have this season. So, nice segue into the reason you're here, of course, and that is boys soccer. So, first off, I guess it sounds like you have a good bit you want to say, so I'll just let you go. Before we get into all the playoffs and stuff, is there anything from this year that hasn't really been talked about enough, or that you want to remark on that is worth, like, maybe your favorite memory, favorite game you want to talk about?
Favorite memory, I would say it's 2 of them.
Okay.
First one would be against one of our district opponents. The game started off clear skies, and then I ended up having a hat trick.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, and an immense fog rolled in and covered the field after my hat trick, and that started a belief on the team that I am God.
That's fun. That's
So, keeper on the team, Guy Sarnier, he became the Pope of the religion Colonism, which is I'm the God. And it started off with that game, and then previously, Guy has been blessing people in the name of Colonism before a game, and he will give them like a blessing of scoring, assists, or whatever. And so far, we are 9 for 9 in blessings of Colonism. The last game against Sterlington, we were 5 for 5, and we ended up getting 4 all in that game. And it started off with James, who never believed, got baptized with the rain. And because of that, James ended up scoring 2 goals, one off an assist from Josh Rotolo, who got blessed with an assist. And Brian Gramajo also got blessed with an assist. So I went in, Brian passed me the ball. I ended up putting it in the goal, probably luckily, I'll say. But I gave Brian an assist. I saw Luke that needed to score because he got blessed before the game. So I come out due to injury and seeing my person in need. And so Luke comes in and he scores a great header of a goal, causing us to be 4 for 4 on that game.
That's not where I thought that was going to go, but that's great. Between that and Michael's interesting remarks at the beginning of the season when he came on, seems that the entire locker room for your guys' soccer team is quite the intriguing one, quite the interesting one. And I guess more than that, it seems like you guys really are together.
It really gives us a bond because Colonism is all-inclusive. And we still accept Michael, even though he has different beliefs. And we're just together as a team because of this.
Don't worry, Mark. I do see you. I'll talk about that. Just don't worry. I'll ask him. Okay, John. But Mark, we don't worry. I'll bring that up later. So, but I was just saying, the locker room seems interesting. It seems like you guys are really good friends more than just teammates when you're out there both on and off the field.
I mean, we're I'll say more than friends.
Mm-hmm.
We're like family.
Yeah.
I would kill for any one of these people right here, right now, cold blood. And they do the same because we're family.
Well, I don't know if that's great or illegal, but either way,
I say it's great.
The family I've talked about it before with successful teams and successful programs here, but the family bond between you guys seems to be a good what's the word I'm looking for? A good shower of success. That, we talked about at the beginning of the season, the girls soccer team, they have, family bonds. They're a team, they're a family. And they're, of course, a great program. They're 5 seed going to the quarters. You guys are the same way and the favorites to win state. So I think that's something that's a very big factor in having success at this level, is feeling together, feeling like a team, like a family. And I wonder, you guys, last year I talked about it a lot, or I've heard it discussed. You guys were a young team, only 3 seniors. And had a lot of success as a young team, made it to the semis, big one over St. Louis, ended up falling short. But this year, you're not a young team. 10 seniors, including yourself, had Michael and James on before, had Nick on before, lots of seniors, almost an entire starting lineup full of it. How does that affect the locker room? We've talked about the positive effects of a family, but how does having so much senior leadership affect a locker room, especially one as successful as you guys have been this season?
I mean, if you look at it in our past, 2 years ago when we won state, we had even more seniors than we have now. Like that was a senior heavy team. But right now we have. I mean, last year we went through a rebuild year technically. We still made it to semis because we only had 3 seniors. But those seniors were really good captains and really good leaders, and the seniors before them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at them. Take their examples, what we liked, what we didn't, and we put that into this team now.
Right.
And I really think it's working so far.
Yeah, I mean, it has worked. 3 losses, I think, this season. And it's only had 1, if I recall correctly, this year, like this calendar year.
Yeah.
And lots of success. Obviously, it's worked. And that's kind of the mark of a great program. You take the leadership from years previous, from successful years previous. In those seniors from 4, and you take it, you improve upon it, and you just make that program better. And I think you guys have done so this year. At least to this point, there's no reason to believe otherwise. So congratulations on that, and being the entire senior class being a large foundation for this team and the program moving forward. Will asks if the chairs that we're in, are they comfortable?
It's nice leather bound. Seems like cotton on the inside.
I think it actually is. So,
godly sense, I would say. Although they do make sound.
Yeah, so one thing is this is they are kind of old chairs. We had rocking chairs that are normally in this position just when kind of normal in this room, but I've gotten comments before when I had an episode where I was in a moving chair that it was distracting, so I moved them around. These are slightly less comfortable than those chairs.
I would have loved to have a rocking chair.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. It would have been a different environment, nice, a little bit more relaxed. But I think this is fine, and they are good, comfortable. I mean, I've sat in these chairs for a while. They asked if we're staying hydrated. You've probably noticed at this point that we have been drinking a lot of water. So yes, we have been staying hydrated.
This song,
not a sponsorship. Although, yes, this honey is great. So, with that out of the way, moving on to, I guess, the present and these playoff games. We talked about Sterlington, and as much as your, I guess, prophecies or your blessings have had success, the team maybe didn't have the same numerical success that I think a lot of people were expecting going into the game. I just, as a fan myself, I went into the game, especially the day before, where the girls thrashed Bell Chase 8-0. I go into the game thinking it's going to be an 8-0 thrashing. I'm going to get out of here before, because I had to leave at halftime for to go to basketball practice. But I was going to get out of here before basketball practice started, and it was just going to be a blowout. And it wasn't. Now, that's not to say you guys weren't the better team. You obviously were. You ended up winning 4-0. Great game. But to leave at halftime only up 1-0, even though this is just, I don't have the statistic on this, but just watching the game, you guys owned the ball for 80% of the time. Obviously, the better team. It's just lots of shots on goal, and you'll talk about that in a second, I assume. But is, a little bit, I don't want to say concerning, but a little bit interesting to see the 16 seed only be down 1 at halftime. And then, as much as you guys were the better team, that numerical difference from what was maybe expected. Is there a reason that happened?
Yeah, I would say we had a lot of shots on goal, just sometimes shots don't go in. That keeper, he played fantastically. He had a really good game, blocked a lot of nice shots, I would say. And sometimes you have games where that happens, and sometimes you have games the opposite. We've had 8-0 showings throughout the year.
Right.
And especially we played Shillington. That was our second time playing them this year. It's always harder to beat a team more because that team knows who you are now and can game plan.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm not really surprised because, boys soccer is so competitive. Anybody can win.
Yeah.
Look at us last year. We were the 1 seed and we beat we were the 8 seed and we beat the 1 seed.
The entire boys soccer, your whole division has a lot of parity in it.
Yeah, I would say it's more competitive
than a lot of other divisions and a lot of other sports around here. And it's very interesting to watch that. And I don't think it's a huge cause for concern. And you've given very good explanations. That actually reminds me of another one of the games. I haven't had a chance to come to between your guys and the girls' games, but I went to the state championship game last year for the girls. It felt like a very similar situation. They doubled up Turlings on shots on goal, ended up losing 3-0. That's goalie play. And they had a monster goalie. She ends up winning MVP, and it seems somewhat similar here where a great goalie can carry a team to a closer game than maybe what should have happened on the field. And for the record, that's saying nothing against Nick. He shut them out, and it's not a comparative goalie play. It's just that because their goalie was very good, and that closed the gap. So that's very understandable. It was not what I expected going into the game, but I also just have a cursory knowledge of boys soccer in the area. So that explanation makes a lot of sense. So moving forward with Bossier, your opponents this week, second straight opponents coming, I think 4 + 5 hours ish from the Shreveport area to come down here. I thought this episode was going to be on table tennis. What happened? I don't know why you thought this episode was going to be on table tennis. It was not.
I am very good at table tennis.
Well,
this can
awesome.
We can switch to table tennis if need be.
If we can maybe make comments on that later on. So, but for now, the Bossier game. Now, Bossier, you talked about the parity, and you guys were in the same situation last year, but the reverse role. You were the 8 seed, you traveled to St. Louis, and you pulled off the upset. So what do you think are the keys to this game? Now as the 1 seed, hosting the 8 seed, to not let the same thing happen to you?
Last year, whenever we played St. Louis, 2 major factors were, one, our fans were louder than that and more than their fans.
You guys traveled very well to that game from what I heard.
Yeah, we traveled 3+ hours, and we had more fans than they did at their own home game. And as soon as we started the game, we started with way more intensity, started off on all cylinders, and then put them on their heels. If we can avoid those 2 things, then there should be no chance of any type of upset.
Right. It's kind of goes back to something I talked about with the girls soccer players last week. I talked about their game with Bell Chase. Similar situation. Don't go into it just assuming that you'll win.
Yeah.
It's, you might be favored. You might be the favorites in the entire bracket. Should be as the 1 seed. But you discussed it before. There's so much parity in this bracket. There's so much parity in this division. you can't go into it sleepwalking. You
yeah.
can't go into it assuming that you're just going to have the win handed to you on a silver platter. You have to go into it expecting for a fight and winning a fight. This team beat Noma, a team that you guys, I guess, non-district tied with and ended up winning in overtime. Or in is it? I'm sorry, I don't know the terminology in soccer. Was that the PK game or was the other game?
Noma was PK game.
Okay, so that one was in PKs. The other one was in the overtime time because of both district games. Anyway, I digress. So obviously they're a very good team and they can potentially compete. The entire bracket can compete. So just, I guess, advice from, again, I don't have great knowledge on the schematics of soccer, but go in there and expect for a fight and win. You guys are the better team. You guys are favored, but go out there and play like it. And I think those are things that you've echoed yourself. So moving on to, I don't want to look too far ahead into the playoff bracket because looking too far ahead is assuming that you win. But if you do win, and of course we expect to win, but after that game, what do you think is the toughest opponent that you would face in order to win the state championship game?
I'm not sure because I haven't really given much thought to the other side of the bracket. I haven't seen anybody who we play in championships.
Right.
I didn't see how that side of the bracket's going.
I don't remember. Is Loyola? I think Loyola
and Edie White, if they play.
Oh, Loyola's the 5 seed? Okay.
They play the same day as us, same time at Edie White. And the winner of that game plays us at home. Okay. And if Edie White wins,
that's
easy. I feel like we match up well against Edie White, and the only thing that worries me, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in the same season.
Right. And especially, I will want to add on to this. You beat them 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And only a 2 week or 2.5-ish week gap between games is rough. Both games in the same place, probably similar time frames, and Edie White's going to be hungry if that happens.
Oh yeah.
For a chance to go to, where is the state championship?
Hammond.
Hammond. Well, not a great place, but a chance to go to the state championship game, and play for a state championship in the Holy War, the big rivalry game. That would be a huge game just for the entire bi-parish area for the entire region. And it's a game that you guys would be favored in. You talked about potential matchups, beat them 3-0 pretty handily last time. But again, they would throw everything at you if that were to take place.
And it just takes one mess up and it's over because it's not playoffs ball.
Right. St. Louis learned that last year.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys don't have that same fate. I hope you guys, and I'm rooting for you guys to go out and beat Bossier, beat Edie White or Loyola, beat whoever ends up on the other bracket, and come out with a big state championship for the big senior class you have. One final question, because it was asked before. I think it's better to ask it now than when Mark asked the question. You brought up your the religious, I guess, tendencies of the boys soccer team. So he asked for, let's see, what's the exact wording? Do you have a miracle or a blessing that you can give for the next game against Bossier here on Terrier Talk?
I'm sorry, no. I must either have a can of Rain energy drink, or it must be on game day for blessings to occur.
Okay.
And if both of those situations are true, like having at the same time, blessings are increased.
Well, okay. I guess we'll have to wait for it's Tuesday.
Tuesday, 5 o'clock.
Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
Be there.
Yes. Hopefully, as many people who can come will come. I will probably be there for a small part of the first half. There's a boys' game that night as well. But I'll be there for as much as I can be. Hopefully, as many people can be there as well. So I wish you guys the best of luck in that game against Bossier and the entire rest of the bracket with a victory. So I hope you guys have a state championship run, and I thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. So just a little bit of moving around again. Thank you to Colin for coming on the show. Little bit of movement. Again, a different sort of. Guess that. Well, yeah, I guess that works. You'll see my mouse, but it's okay. A little bit of a different setup here. Like I said before, I brought it up when Colin was on, but I didn't really want to spend time. The interview obviously went on for a very long time. I didn't want to spend too much time on that while he was here, because just for the interview's sake. But Colin, nothing about Colin. Excuse me. But this is so my normal studio, I guess if you want to call it that. Where I record is downtown, right on Park. I think it's on Park after the move. Yeah, it is. On the parade route, but it's still right in the smack dab of downtown. Very difficult to get there during a parade or right after a parade finishes. And because today's parade was moved from noon to 2 o'clock, it would have been very difficult or potentially very difficult or risky to try to get down there at 7:30 in order to have the episode. And we're actually pretty rushed for time anyway, just from kind of the ramifications of this. So it could have been worse if we were downtown. So we're here, a little bit of a different location. Hope you guys like the background. Nice fireplace. Fireplace isn't turned on because it's not really cool enough for it to be. But hope you guys enjoy it, and a little bit of a change of scenery. I think it's the 4th or 5th, technically, different background that's been on the show. Yeah, I think 5th. Anyway, just nice little factoid if anyone wanted to keep track. But yeah, that's it. Again, thank you that's it for the episode. That's it for Colin's interview. Thank you to Colin for coming on. Really enjoyed it. So going into the review for other sports, I'm not going to talk a lot about boys soccer for the rest of the episode because I can't give information as well as Colin can about it, of course. Quickly touch on the Sterlington game. Like I said, went into it expecting an 8-0 thrashing. That's not really how this boys soccer division works. Because Sterlington had a great goalie, like Colin said, brought it down to, I think it was a 4-0 victory. 1-0 at halftime. But again, according to Colin, not exactly cause for concern. Just go out and win your next game, and that's all that matters. Girls beat down on Belchase on Tuesday, the day before, which probably colored my my expectations a little bit going into the game. The parity of Division II girls soccer versus the parity of Division III boys soccer, they really are two different things. And that's nothing against the girls soccer division, but Belchase really just isn't that high caliber of a team, whereas Sterlington has, key components like a very good goalie that helped make the game closer. So it was just a difference in matchup there in some ways. In Belchase, the girls took care of business and beat the inferior team, the team that they were favored against. But this week's opponent will be much more difficult. We'll talk about that in the main event. Moving on to basketball, and I'm, of course, like I said before, I'm going to cover these in chronological order for the final week because this was the final week of girls basketball. And we're going to start with what might be the game of the year in not just girls basketball, but in all of Terrier sports, just from an entertainment perspective. Obviously, the result was not really what we wanted. But with how much there was at stake in this game, not just the past, but the present and the future ramifications of this game with both programs and how good the game was, it's up there with the South Lafourche game from about a month ago and the Terrebonne game from the beginning of the season for girls basketball. And even rivals again, this is from an entertainment perspective. How good of a game was it? And even rivals stuff like the Assumption game for boys football and probably some of the best games that like the boys soccer team had. I don't remember who they played, but it was like when I'm thinking about potential best games of the year, one that comes to mind for boys soccer, because I haven't, want to mention this at least with how successful their season has been. They did a game, I think it was early on in the season, a tournament, where they had like a 2-goal comeback, end up winning 3-2 in the final 10-ish minutes. That would be a game that would be in that conversation. This game at Ellender is in that same conversation for potential best game of the year. And I'm going to go through the story of the game, why it was so important, why the ramifications were so big, and why sitting there and watching it was so enjoyable, and I was so invested watching it. So this is a rematch, and a rematch of a very good game itself the first time they played, where we came up short at home, 49-43. And in that game, we saw a lot of things that make this game so much more important. First off, the matchup between Ellender's best player, Jamia Singleton, and our probably brightest star for the future, Jamie Detillier. Both freshmen, both kind of interesting here, wearing number 4, and both guards, and they were matched up on each other multiple times throughout that game. And the same was true here. And it was something that became apparent the more we went on through the game. Jamia Singleton for Ellender is a girl that is a very big matchup problem for us. Very similarly to their other best player, Tanisha Hester. Tanisha Hester is their only senior, the only player from the 2017 state championship team. And both players are players that we just don't match up very well against. Tanisha has the combination of size and physicality that we don't really have on another player. Rebecca has the size. Someone like Brittany or Amy kind of has the physicality, but you can't really do both at the same time, which made her a big problem in the post. And then Jamia's speed and quickness. She's a true basketball player. Not to say that any of our players aren't, but like her skill set seems specifically refined for basketball. And she was also very hard to cover, and that was apparent. So it was a difference between a very rock-solid starting 5-ish for Ellender with some other key role players. Number 14 for Ellender is also a very good player. I don't remember her name. But very strong players all around for Ellender versus the deepest team maybe in all of the state of Louisiana with 11 seniors, our girls' basketball team. Let this one sink in for a second. Our girls' basketball team had 11 seniors. The boys' soccer team had 10 seniors. Soccer fields 11 people and generally is a bigger roster than a basketball team, especially a varsity roster. And the girls have more seniors. In a pretty high number senior roster for the boys, it's crazy just how many seniors that the girls have. You don't see this ever in a girls' basketball roster at high school. And so because of that, we're so deep. We have 14-ish or 12, 13-ish legitimate varsity players that can be rotated in and out at any time. And they have their, 2 or 3 big stars and some other players that are good contributors but not great. And so it was that difference in, roster setup, difference in team structure we see in action. Is the star power of Jamia and Tanisha better than our depth and the strength that we have, great players as well. Brittany's great. Amy's great. Okay, we have, a bunch of great players. Leah, Rebecca, Jemmy, of course, Kate. I mean, I'm not going to go and mention every single player, but we have a bunch of great talent. But it's a difference in team structure. Moving on to just how big. Again, I mentioned before, Ellender won a state championship game, or state championship 3 years ago in 2017. It's one of the best programs in the state. And Vanderbilt in basketball, both boys and girls, is not seen as a great program. Getting a win over Ellender in girls basketball would be huge. Huge for the entire basketball program. And this is one of our best chances to do it. The girls' basketball team, again, it's senior loaded. So many seniors, so much experience on that court almost at all times. Versus an Ellender team that does not have that same experience. It's, again, only one senior, Tanisha Hester. And a great senior at that, a great player, but only one. And this is one of our best chances to do it. And the game showed it. Some great runs throughout this game. Basketball, at its best, is a game of runs. And this game showed it. Up 7, down 8, up 6, down 4. I mean, it was boom, boom, boom. Had all the momentum. We lost all the momentum. It was an entertaining game. Interestingly enough, however, I mentioned a few weeks ago when we played Ellender the first time that while the finish wasn't amazing compared to the Self-Lafourche game or the Terrebonne game before it, how we played and how they played throughout the game, throughout the first 3.5 quarters, was probably the highest level and the cleanest game I've seen from a girls' basketball game all season and maybe the whole time I've been here at Vanderbilt at a high school level. This game wasn't really the same way. It was a little bit sloppier. We had missed free throws, we had turnovers, missed layups. It was just a little bit sloppy. It was a little bit more physical than the first game, but it was a little bit more of a, I guess, track meet sort of game. Both games were very fast paced, and unlike the first game, which was very fast paced in the first 2 quarters and kind of slowed down as the game went on, this game was a little bit slower in the first half and got to a great pace and a very entertaining pace as the game went on, which is really the progression that you want to see in a game. Again, not from a fan's perspective, but from a just straight-up spectator's perspective, which is how I see a lot of games. Obviously, I'm invested in the girls' basketball team, and I love seeing them win. I hope they win every game they play. But just as a spectator, it was very interesting, just kind of the progression of the game itself. You know, if you were writing or scripting a game, that's how you'd want to do it. Obviously, it's not scripted. It was completely real. But tangent aside, the girls' game, it was just back and forth. They go on a huge run to finish the second quarter, and we have to go into halftime scrambling to come back composed. Because like I said, the game was a little bit more of a track meet than last time. Last time, we had the lead a little bit more often than they did for the first 3.5 quarters. They pulled away at the end. In this game, they pull away at the end of the second quarter because it's a less refined game, a game that suits them just a little bit more. We have a lot of great players, but a lot of our players don't really fit that kind of a mold of a game very well. Like, for example, Rebecca, great player, but she doesn't fit the, track meet, get down on the floor to go get the basketball all the time sort of a game. She prefers a game that's a little bit more slowly paced, a little bit more methodical, where she can control the post a little bit better. Versus, say, Brittany, where she, thrives in that sort of a situation. So the game being played like that changes the strategy of who comes in at what time completely. And we saw that throughout the game. And it was apparent. And it was fun. It was kind of a chess match between the two coaches of who comes in at what time to change up the pace of the game. And it was great to watch. So we move on. We're down, I think it was 7 at the end of the second quarter, going into halftime. And we find our composure. And we take it to the basket a lot. We get into the double bonus by the end of the third quarter. We get into the bonus with about 3 minutes left to go in the third quarter. And we are shooting a lot of free throws. I mean, many free throws. And we're hitting a lot of them. Because, again, this is a team that's filled with seniors, and seniors have a lot of experience doing a lot of things, including shooting free throws. And Rebecca was great, Leah was great, Brittany was great, Janie, all the players were, Amy, they were all great, hitting those free throws at times that were necessary. And in the third quarter, we went on a massive run. The score was, I think, 24-17 at halftime, and we end up, I think it was 36-29, or 41-28, excuse me, at the end of the third quarter, or somewhere around those ranges. Huge run, down 7 up even into the double digits. And as the fourth quarter goes on, it was more and more a question of, can we hold on to the lead? Because Ellender was a little bit a little bit faster at some points, a little bit, it was a matter of time of can we keep up with the lead? And the lead started dwindling down to 10, down to 9, down to 7, down to 5 with about 4 minutes to go, down to 4, down to 3. Eventually, Ellender ties the game. And it becomes a back and forth. We hit a 3, they hit a 3, they hit a 2, we hit a 2, layup, free throws. Near the final minute, it's free throws. Both teams are in the bonus, trading free throws. We get to the final seconds. Leah hits 2 free throws. Their player, number 4, Jamia Singleton, great player, great free throw shooter, hits 2 free throws. The final 9 seconds of the game, Leah gets fouled to shoot 2 free throws. If I recall correctly, the score was either 60-59 or 61-60. I think it was 60-59. We were down by 1 with 9 seconds to go. Leah was, I think, 4 for 5 or 5 for 6 or something like that. Very good from the free throw line up to this point in the game. Hit 2 free throws to take the lead earlier on, like with 20 seconds left. Ice cold veins, completely in the clutch. Lines up to shoot the first free throw to tie the game up, and she misses it. I want to highlight this moment because at that point, Coach Coleman takes a timeout to talk about if she hits the free throw, if she misses the free throw, what to do in what situations. And Leah has to, I think it was a full timeout, for a full minute, sit back and think about the shot that she has to take to tie the game, to keep the team in the game in a lot of ways. Because you miss the free throw, they get the rebound, we're in a really bad spot. Whereas if you hit the free throw, all you need is one defensive stop, and you're in it, you get to overtime, we're in a good situation. And I think for Leah, a lot of, I don't know, from my perspective, I'm watching the game, I think about all of the moments in Leah's career coming up to that moment. Not just the miss beforehand, but every other shot that she's taken in this moment. The 3 games against Terrebonne in the Jack Becker Classic, all of them very close. She came up so close in so many different moments. Early on in her career, I think she hit a buzzer beater on one of her first starts. This is a very, very long memory from 8th grade. Huge moments, huge shots. It always seemed to be her to take that shot. And in this moment, in one of the biggest games, remember, not just the ramifications of the program, but if we win this game, we probably, with a win against South Terrebonne on senior night, I'll talk about the game in a little bit, we're probably 5-5 in district, a much more deserving record than a potential 4-6, because this team is way better than being under 500 in district. In any other district, I've said this every week, in any other district in the state of Louisiana, we'd be competing for at least second, if not first. And here we're sitting maybe third, and that's what we're fighting for basically a tie for third place. And not just district ramifications, but for this shot against Ellender to tie the game and potentially send it to overtime. And with all of that thinking in her head, she lines up, takes the free throw, and she hits it. Timeout is taken, so we're all able to think about, again, as fans, just how big that moment was. She hits the free throw. And that shot, and we'll talk about what happens afterward, but just isolate that moment is huge. And I'm proud of her as a fan for hitting that. And as a friend, as a classmate for hitting that. So great job to Leah for hitting that shot. To tie the game, I think it was 60-60 with 9 seconds to go. All we have to do is stop them for 9 seconds, one possession, and we go to overtime. And then the possession happens. Jamia ends up with the ball, and you can see once she gets the ball, she's entered a different mode. This is what elite players do. Even as a freshman, Jamia showed, honestly, she was the best player on the court in that moment. Because she gets the ball handed to her. She's like, she kind of looked twitchy in some ways. And her speed goes up an entire other notch. And she suddenly, for those 9 seconds, became unstoppable. And She shoots a layup with 2 seconds to go, and it goes in, and we end up losing the game by 2 points. In what is one of the most entertaining games I've ever seen. We came up short. We can talk about defensive things in that game if you want, but it was a girls' basketball game into the 60s as a score. So entertaining, so fun to watch. We came up on the wrong end of it, which it hurts. The loss hurts a lot, but the game itself was so entertaining that that's something I'm not going to forget for a long time. So thank you to the girls for supplying that. It was fun. I know not really fun to remember for you guys the loss itself, but I hope you can learn from it and learn from, take the good things away from it, the great things you did during that game, the great free throw shooting, the great offensive production, in some ways that you have struggled with in previous weeks. You didn't struggle with that in this game, and take that and improve. And that's, I think, the big takeaway. We got a great game, an amazing game, and a lot of good things about our team, not just now, but for the future to learn from and to improve upon. I wish I could say the same for the boys. The boys did not have a great game against Ellender. It was not a 2-point loss with a buzzer beater. It did not take a buzzer beater to beat the boys. No, the boys lost by about 40. I think the score was 97-58, so we lost by 39 technically. But basically a 40-point loss. Not much to say. Ellender's just a lot bigger than us and a lot deeper than us and in a lot of ways faster than us. They dominated rebounds. Not much to say. They're just, in a lot of ways, the better team. Sorry. Moving on to a game that was a lot more fun on Thursday. The girls' game, senior night, hosting South Terrebonne. Senior night for both the boys and the girls. I'll talk about why that's the case in a little bit. But senior night, final home game, final regular season game for the girls against South Terrebonne. South Terrebonne's a very good team. We beat them early on in the season by 8 at South Terrebonne. Projected to win by about that margin. And the senior night game was kind of everything you would have wanted from a senior night game. When you have 11 seniors, you're asking for a lot for senior nights, but I think it delivered. Just from, if you go into it thinking, what do we want? First of all, we want to win, and that happened. We won pretty convincingly. They kind of, similarly to the first game, we were up by a lot, and then they kind of crept back, not to the point of competitive play, but to the point of closing within double digits. First game within 8. This game, they only closed within 10. We ended up winning 45-35. A strong win, momentum going into playoffs, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later as well. But we also had great moments from different players. Kate Bogline hit a 3, and it was great. Hannah Curtis hit a shot, and it was great. Leah hit a 3. Amy hit a bunch of shots. So, Amy had a great game, for example. She dropped, I think, 15 points. Brittany had a very good game. Rebecca had a good game. Leah had a very good game. Everyone had great games. We ended up with a victory. It was kind of everything that you would have wanted from senior night. And it was a fun game to watch. And the crowd was, again, everything you would have wanted. So, great job to the girls for that win. And we finished the game. And even before the boys' senior night presentation, the crowd dissipates. I mean, the entire crowd, just half the crowd leaves. And I mentioned this not blaming anyone. That's not my point. It was something that I noticed, and I want to give a reason as to why it happened. I'm not going to blame someone for an action like that. You guys, anyone who did do that, I don't have a problem with it. You obviously found the girls' game, and you had more investment with the senior night for the girls, and that's fine. In large part because it's pretty deserved on both the girls' side and the boys' side. The boys' season was not very good. I don't know why you're asking me to take my shoes off. I don't know how you can see my shoes. Anyway, thank you for watching, though, but I don't know why my shoes are of any concern. Anyway, my point is the boys just didn't have a very good season. It's not a season that many fans... Oh, thank you. Thank you, I guess, Jeff, or whoever the person is. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for commenting, and thank you for the compliment for the fireplace. It is a very nice fireplace. Thank you. So, I'm not gonna I feel like some people in that situation would want to criticize the fans for leaving. I don't, because it's not on the fans. They found it. They found the girls' team much more interesting and worth investing. And when the boys had the performance that we did against South Terrebonne, I can't really blame them. The girls went out and did everything they wanted to do. It was kind of I don't want to say cookie cutter, it was kind of the normal, great senior night. And it was fun. The boys had maybe our worst performance of the season on senior night. In the first half, we were down 24-11. The offense did not show up at all. We hit, I want to say, 1 field goal in the second quarter, something like that. We were getting out-rebounded a lot. They had 11 offensive rebounds, 14 offensive rebounds, I think, in the first half. And I understand that South Terrebonne is also a bigger team than us, but we were getting dominated in a lot of ways. Our defense was holding up okay on the first shot, but then we were giving up so many second chance points in that first half. And the offense just was not producing at all. 11 points in a varsity boys basketball half is just not going to cut it for a victory. Yes, that is a jukebox. It's very fun. Anyway. And in the second half, the offense came back. We kind of caught fire, actually, in a lot of ways. We ended up scoring, I think, 26 in the second half, which isn't great overall for a boys basketball half, but it was obviously a big improvement after the first half. But then the defense completely fell apart, giving up another 9 offensive rebounds, which I guess is an improvement from the 14 in the first half, but still not very good. And they gave up almost 50 points. We ended up losing, I think the final score was 69-37. We ended up losing by 32 points as opposed to the 26-point loss before, to a team that is not that good. South Terrebonne, I mean, they're fine. They had a better record than they normally do. They improved. But this game should have been winnable. The matchup on paper was somewhat even, maybe slightly in South Terrebonne's favor. This should not have been a 32-point loss on senior night at home. It was a bad performance. It was a bad game for us. And hopefully we can shake that off, not for the next game. I'll talk about that in a second, but hopefully we can shake that off for the future and have a better performance against Morehead City and going into the playoffs. We will just have to wait to see if that happens. Moving on to the preview. That was a very long review section. I did not think it would take that long, but I guess I had a lot to say about the girls' game against Elder, so it did take that long. Yeah. I apologize, and thank you for anyone who stuck it out and is still watching, because we still do have a good bit to go. So I guess just a disclaimer. And I'll go ahead and go right into it. Preview, we'll start with the boys soccer game versus Bossier. Again, not going to talk about it a lot. I kind of made any remarks I wanted to make during the interview with Colin. I'm just going to basically just remind you it is happening in the preview section on Tuesday. Anyone who can come, please do. Big home game. Then girls basketball, also not much to talk about, because I couldn't find the brackets. They seem to not be out yet. I think we're projected to be around the 9-ish seed, so we will see if that does take place or not. Hopefully it does. Hopefully we will be as high of a seed as we can be, and then go in and make a run. I think this girls team, I'll just talk about the general playoff preview for the girls here since I don't have the bracket yet. the girls are probably a dark horse to make a run this season. Again, we have all the experience in the world. We have everything we need in order to make a run. And if the baskets, if the buckets fall, we've lost a ton of close games this season. If we can get one of those games to go our way, we can pull off a big upset. If we're a 9 seed, that means we'd be playing a 1 seed in the quarterfinals. Whoever that 1 seed is probably an amazing team. However, if there's any team from our girls basketball program that can go in and win a game like that and pull off a big upset, it's this one. We have all the experience we need. We have all the depth that we need to go out and compete with whoever. It's just if we can hit buckets in that game. And we've shown that we can against Elder. We've shown that we can against South Terrebonne. It's just, do we go out there and do it? That's the question. And obviously, I wish them the best of luck in whatever game they end up playing. Moving on to boys basketball, we're taking on Morgan City on Thursday, our final regular season game of the regular season, our final game of the regular season. On the road, it's the one district game that we won going into this, and it gives us a chance to not be last place in the district. I think Morgan City's winless. I might be wrong on that, but I think they're winless. And if we have a chance, it was a very good game just a couple of weeks ago, to go out there and get a big win to finish off the regular season and go into the playoffs with all the momentum we can have. Maybe get a playoff win as well. We'll have to see. But that game is very important for kind of the taste in our mouth that the season's going to leave us. I think that's the big thing. Because a loss here, and no matter what happens in playoffs, it's a really bad taste in our mouth going into next year. But a win, and we at least have a little bit of positive momentum going into the summer and all of that as the season ends. I don't think there's another game. I don't really want to talk about any other game this week. I don't want to bring up Assumption. I guess I have to, but I don't want to. Assumption is the best, and for basketball, I guess I apologize if I didn't make that clear. We do also take on Assumption in our final home regular season game, which should be our senior night game. However, it's not our senior night game because as not fun as senior night was for the boys with the game that we had, it would have been exponentially less fun if we had played Assumption. Assumption is the number 1 team in the state. Not the number 1 team in their division, not the number 1 team in their class, the number 1 team in the entire state of Louisiana. They are like 25-3. They are a lot better than everyone else in their district. They beat Ellender by 30. They beat everyone by so many points. They beat us by 74 the last time that we played at Assumption. This game's not going to be fun. It could be the last time I'm announcing for boys basketball, so I guess that's somewhat notable. I don't know. But it's not going to be a game that's worth remembering. I hate to say that. I try to be positive on this show about our teams, but there isn't much positivity to be shown here. We're not going to compete with them. I hate to say that. And there's no real shame in that. They're the best team in the state. But that's just how it works. Moving on, finally, to the main event of the week, and that is the big game, girls soccer at Lakeshore. So, Lakeshore, this is huge for a lot of reasons. First of all, I brought this up last week, and I'll just touch on it here. The girls soccer team has had a very similar season trajectory to the girls volleyball team. And the girls volleyball team lost in the quarterfinals in the 4-5 game. Now, the girls volleyball team, they were the 4 seed, were the 5 seed. But it's still the same game, still a very similar situation in the quarterfinals. If we're going to shed the, mold that the girls volleyball team already kind of set for us, this is the chance for us to do it. Because it's a very similar situation. St. Scholastica was a very good team. Maybe not the best team in the state. I don't think they went on to win the state championship. But Lakeshore, despite being the 4 seed, might be the best team in the state. Most people rate them above both the 2 and the 3 seed, and potentially even above the 1 seed in St. Thomas More. Might be the best team in the entire state, in the entire division. This is a tough game. At Lakeshore, not easy. The game is, I think, on Wednesday. I'm not sure. Whenever the game is. I know it's on the road, like I said, at Lakeshore. Not an easy game. Lakeshore's a great team. I talked about it last week, how they could very easily lose to Turlings, the 13 seed, and they didn't. They won 3-1. They won pretty convincingly, and now they have a lot of momentum, a lot more momentum than we do from a not very convincing win against Belle Chase. Lakeshore, big win, has a chance for a second big win against us, and hopefully we can go in and not go out there and lose. It's not just not losing, the win would be huge for both teams, because both teams, this is probably the winner of this game in some circles might be the favorite to win the whole state tournament. Because St. Thomas More, we've seen it before. I talked about it with Lily and Madison and Lauren last week. And we have tied St. Thomas More before. We can go out there and compete and beat St. Thomas More. If Lakeshore beats us, obviously they can do the same thing. So this game is huge. It's going to be great. First of all, we know that. Both these teams are great. Elite programs. We're an elite program. They're a very good program themselves. And both these teams are great. This is a huge game. And this is kind of our big chance to show that even with the move up in division, we can still compete. Not just be good or be great, but be a state championship contender. Because that's what that win would do. In Division 2, we would show ourselves to be a true state championship contender. That's what's on the line. That's what matters here. Obviously, getting to semifinals of the state matters a lot too. But getting this win would be so big for us in so many different ways. So I wish them the best of luck. It's not going to be an easy game. Very tough opponent in Lakeshore. But I wish our girls the best of luck in a big game. It's a game they can win, and I hope they do so. I hope you guys enjoyed. A very long episode, almost an hour. Happy I didn't quite break the hour-long mark there. But hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys next week. Same time, same channel. I will see you then.